Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode with my new friend, Natalia. We're going to be talking about the psychology of money and why you may not have the money that you should have. We're also going to be talking about resilience. We're going to be talking about finances. We're going to be talking about business. So I'm so grateful. Natalia, thank you so much for showing up today. I want to give a big shout out to Miss Cindy Thomas. Thank you for putting us together. And I want to give a big shout out to Celsius Energy Drink. We're both drinking Celsius at the same time. So thank you, Celsius, for keeping us energized and keeping us warm. You may have seen this lady on the Inc. 5000. She is also a founder, CEO. She's a Swiss Army knife of positivity. Natalia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
And of course, you're a Jersey girl, so I got to give a big shout out to Jersey. My first question is, what is your definition of resiliency?
Resiliency. It's funny that that's your question, because I actually have that on a lot of my the information about our business and what we do. So resiliency for me is not giving up, making data-driven decisions, and keep moving forward without skipping a beat. Just move forward no matter how tough things are. That's what resiliency is to me. But making educated decisions, but moving forward.
So, okay, give us a quick down and dirty. Where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you become the force that you are today?
It took me a while. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer. So I was originally born in New Jersey. I had lived in several different states. And then in 2012, I found myself divorced and looking for a job because I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. So entering back into the workforce was really difficult. My first job at 42 years old, I made $7.10 an hour, which was really brutal. I was a single mom. And I remember my first paycheck was less than my electric bill. So I was like, this is really difficult. However, what I knew was one step ahead would give me, any job would give me an option and a step into another job. So I just wanted to take any job that I could. I looked for quite some time, I couldn't find anything. And then I was like, I'm just gonna if I have to dig a grave to make money, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get a job, and that'll be a stepping stone. Soon after that, I became employed and actually made somewhat of a salary. Wasn't lighting up the world, but was in a much more comfortable position. And after 6 years of working there, they had made a lot of management changes. My position got demoted, put me back into poverty levels for the state of Maryland for a family. And I was looking for other work. I couldn't find anything. And my boyfriend at the time, we were sitting in a coffee shop, and he said, well, why don't you start your own business? And that was the first time that I thought about starting a business. And I was almost 50 years old at the time. So he sent me this little course on 8 weeks to start your own business. So I followed it step by step while still working full time. And I had a child who was very young at the time. So that was, driving and listening to it while commuting to work, trying to work on things during lunch hour, working on things after my daughter went to bed at night. So it was a very tough situation, but I really wanted to have a light at the end of the tunnel. And in January 2019, I finished the course. I reached out according to what the course said on LinkedIn, and I landed my first client without even knowing how to do bookkeeping. And that was it. So I taught myself bookkeeping on YouTube. And after a lot of trials and tribulations, this is our 7th year in business. We now have 16 employees, and we're an Inc. 5000 business. And we offer way more than just bookkeeping. Fractional CFO is actually one of our biggest services that we offer. So that's basically the story.
One of the part of your story that actually hit me was that when you took that job making $7 an hour, you were actually a customer of that same store at one point,
I was.
and you were helping people that were buying the same stuff that you used to buy that you couldn't afford at that time. What was that like?
It was extremely humbling. Not that I needed humbling, to be honest, but it was extremely humbling. And it was very difficult because it was hard. A lot of the women that went to shop in there, they actually looked down on me and were not very kind. And that was actually a pretty large percentage of the women that were shopping there. They saw me, I guess, as someone below them because I was working there, and they weren't the kindest. So the managers were great. The people I worked with were wonderful, but some of the customers were very difficult. So that made the situation even more humbling. And then I remember once I tried to purchase something. I was getting paid that day and I wanted to buy something for myself. And the regional manager was there and she was ringing me up. And I guess my paycheck had not hit my account yet and it didn't go through. And she laughed at me. And I went home crying that day. But I think that it's all part of the journey, and I really do not regret a single piece, not a single piece of that journey to this day, because it brought me to where I am now. I'm a lot more empathetic, and I understand how to get out of poverty. I know how to budget. I know how to tighten my belt. I know how to do all of those practical things that now we talk to people about.
Okay, but now, a lot of our audience are prior military, and a lot of us are starting over in our 40s, in our 50s, starting out from less than zero. Like at one point, you were at zero or less than zero. So, what are some of your takeaways for people that are starting their lives over again at the age of 40 or 50?
Yes, so I started this business the year I turned 50. I did it out of pure desperation. And at first I just wanted to make some extra cash. That's all it was. I just wanted to make some extra money. I wanted to change my situation. So there were many times where I thought, well, I'm too old for this. I can't figure this out. Why am I doing this to myself? Many of my friends were retiring. And I remember sitting on a plane with a friend. We were flying out somewhere, and she said, I don't know, I'll hand it to you. I can't believe that you're starting a business. I'm retiring. And I felt like closing my ears and going, la, 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 because I didn't want to hear it from anybody else, because it is very hard to start a business. And it is very hard when everybody around you, it feels like everybody around you has it figured out. And so what I would say is that doesn't matter in a very short period of time. It's a lot of pain and it doesn't feel like it's a short period of time. But if you look at the entire timeline of your life, it's a very short period of time where you can literally change your life within a few years. If you're extremely consistent, you don't give up, you keep iterating and being a little bit more aware of what's working, what's not working, not putting yourself down, but being aware, okay, this worked, or this I need to tweak, or this I need to do better. And you're going to have to work a little bit more than you normally do and make a little bit less money than you normally do to get over that hump where it gets a lot better. But it's very possible, and you can change your life in a very short period of time.
I think you did it the smart way. You didn't do it. There's a lot of experts out there that's saying, quit your job, go all in on your business. But I think it's smart to have a W-2 while going for your 1090, making a 1099. So how do you think it's smart for a person to have that income coming in before they start a bit or while they're starting a business?
So I didn't have a choice. I needed income coming in. Kudos to the people that have a choice, I suppose. I think that it made me a better person because it is hard to start a business. It is hard to do all the things. And if you have an additional job and then a child at home and all these other responsibilities, and you have to find time for it, it teaches you very quickly how to prioritize and how to do all the things. And so now I have really learned how to put these pieces together throughout time. Like when I finally did quit my job, I didn't quite make enough to even cover my bills, but I already had the security of knowing that I knew how to sell and I knew how to close a client. So I don't believe in going all in until you know that you've proven to yourself and to the marketplace that what you're selling is sellable, that there is a demand for it, and that you know who your client is. Otherwise, the further backwards you go in any kind of debt, the harder it is to get to that break-even point and to move forward.
Now, I've talked to a lot of CEOs, females, males, and I think personally, because my wife is my CEO of my company, I think women have I think like a lot of men, we're more big idea kind of people, or like my wife is more detail orientated, and I think females make a lot much better CEOs. So what was it like now? Not only were you a mother, but now you're a female going out into the corporate world, becoming a business owner and CEO. What was that like? Was that easy for you, or was it hard for you?
I think in some ways it was harder for me. I had to prove myself more. And it depends with whom. So other women love doing business with women. So I joined a women's group and I got a bunch of clients there. Men love doing business with women when women can prove to them that they know what they're doing, because men are practical about that. And so, and some people just prefer to work with men or women. We work with both. I have a lot of male clients. I have a lot of male employees also, and a lot of women. I have both. Almost split down the middle, to be honest. But I did feel in certain circles that I had to prove myself. Especially what's interesting is the older CPAs, men or women. I don't have a CPA. I hire CPAs. I have 3 of them working for me right now, but I don't have one myself. And when they would find out that I own an accounting firm and I don't have a CPA myself, they would literally look me up and down very judgmentally. And I've had that happen many, many times. I've also had it happen in certain circles, and this isn't across the board, but my fiance has his own tax firm. So he has his own business. And when we walk into a room together, the assumption is that I work for him. And I don't. I have my own business.
Okay. Now, also something you said earlier, talking about sales, because I believe, in whatever you do in life, we're all in sales. If somebody is engaged, somebody sold something, somebody bought something. If you're married, somebody sold something, somebody bought something. So we're all in sales. But I think if you can learn to sell, you can pretty much write your own ticket to success. What are your thoughts on sales?
I think, first of all, you're completely right. It's what I see all the time. I joined a mastermind pretty early on in my business. And I think it was in the 3rd year of business. And I joined a mastermind before I could actually afford it to learn more and really bet on myself. They taught sales. Sales was the lifeblood. If you're not selling and not able to sell, then how can you hire someone to sell for you and train them and know that they're doing a good job? It makes it really hard. No one's going to have as much skin in the game as you do as the owner. And when you get really good at sales, the owner closes deals. I still do some sales. I have a sales team, but I still take referrals, especially from clients. I still do sales. I close about 80% of who I talk to because I'm the owner. At this point, I've gotten very good at it. It's been 7 years. In the beginning, it took me an entire year to figure out how to sell. And I had a script because sales is not emotional. Sales is psychological. There's a difference. And if I veered away from the script, because the script felt salesy to me, I felt uncomfortable. I wanted to go with what felt good. And when I would go with what felt good, I wouldn't close. And then when I went with the script, I would close. And so I quickly started learning to use a script. And now I don't use a script, but I've learned how to do a sales call because I used a script in the beginning. Because again, it's psychology, it's not emotion. And I find that a lot of the business owners that we work with, that their biggest impediment to success is the fact that they don't constantly have new business and they don't have a pipeline and lead generation and sales and they don't close deals. If your business isn't growing, it's actually going backwards. So you have to have a growing business and you have to understand sales as the owner.
So, like I labeled this was the psychology of money.
Yes.
And before we got on, I've talked to many millionaires, billionaires, actors, athletes, authors, and there's a different people that are generationally wealthy. Not talking rich, because there's a difference between rich and being wealthy. They have a different thinking about money. They talk money. They talk differently about money. They think differently about money. There's a psychology to money. So, and I love how you talk about the psychology of money. So let's dig a little bit deeper into what is the psychology of money.
Perfect. I really believe that money is is driven by psychology, like we were talking about. It's driven by so we give money value. Money actually is just paper, or now it's not even paper. It's just in the cloud. There is no value to it except the fact that we give it value. So that in and of itself is really interesting, and it's very psychological. So if the more value you or your business or whatever you're doing is bringing, the more perceived value that you're bringing to the world, the more value you get in return in the form of money. So it's an exchange of value, a one-for-one exchange of value. And sometimes it doesn't seem fair, right? So like Apple has the marketplace on, the iPhones and everything. And we probably pay way more than we would for some other brand because of their branding, but we have a perception of that value. Same thing with like a Prada brand or Gucci or whatever. There's a perception of that value. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's even a nicer quality at all. I've seen some of the quality and I'm like, that's not that nice. Sometimes, it's polyester, just like I could buy one from Walmart, for instance. But there's a psychology to that brand. And so the difference between a person who can make the same amount of money. So let's take two business owners. One makes $1 million and the other makes $1 million, same amount of revenue coming in. The wealthy business owner will make very different decisions than the broke business owner, even if they have the same amount of money coming in. And what the difference is, there's discipline, there's data-driven decisions, there's clarity in the decisions, projections, and everything is looked at as a return on investment for the wealthy business owner. And the one that is more broke is just making haphazard decisions or looking at cash in the bank. They're spending it without really thinking about what they're spending on. They're not looking to make sure they're getting a return on their investment. They're not making clear decisions. And so you could have both business owners that make the same amount of money, bring in the same amount of cash, and then one will have $500,000 in the bank and the other one will have 50,000 in the bank and be in debt.
And I'm a big history buff. I love reading and I love reading biographies. And if anybody's interested in people that have generational wealth but lived like they didn't have any money at all, Warren Buffett, still lives in the same house, still goes to McDonald's and spends $3 or $4 every day. Doesn't buy brand new vehicles. Sam Walton had his bird dog in the back of his truck. He was wearing the suspenders kind of guy. Had billions, but didn't actually spend over the limit. And I think there's a difference between people that are rich and the people that are wealthy. Most millionaires that have wealth, they drive nice cars, but they're late model. They're not driving the sports cars. They're not driving they're not having worrying about the Rolexes or the latest looks, but they're trying to set up their families for generations. Now, do you see the big difference between the rich and the wealthy?
So I think there's a difference if someone's making really good money over an extended period of time. Let's say someone started a business at 20 years old, and if they've been very successful. They haven't, first of all, they don't have to grow as quickly to be successful because they have time. And if they're constantly investing in real estate, investing in, other investments, investing maybe even in other businesses, then they have a bigger runway and they can actually start spending money later on in life. So by the time they're 40, now they've had 20 years of investing and 20 years of building something, even if they're making only like $500,000 a year in profit. They have time as their advantage. And so I do see folks that have started out being able to do that sooner. They start spending more money on nicer cars and nicer clothes because they have it. And they already have a lot of investments and they already know they're pretty much set up. People like me, I just started at the age of 50. I did have a 401k. I didn't get rid of my 401k, but I don't have a lot in there. And so I feel like I don't have as much time. So my goal is that I reinvest the money consistently in different areas of my life, especially into the business, because my return on investment for some of the things that I do for my business are going to be much faster at a much higher percentage than it would even on the stock market. So stock market is maybe like 8 to 12% if you're really lucky. I can take the cash, instead of putting in $50,000 into the stock market, I could take $50,000, put it into ad spend, and make a 30% return on that with new clients and lifetime value. And then eventually to sell the business, right? So that is like understanding the difference between a return on investment and what's the most important return you can have, and the different buckets of building wealth, which is pre-tax, post-tax, and assets. So you have to have all three buckets. So really understanding that is usually the difference of the person who knows how to build wealth and the person that doesn't.
Okay, so now when you started over again at the age of 42, now it's 8 to 10 years later. Back then, there was no such thing as personal branding. There was no such thing as, it was the beginning of social media. There was no AI or anything like that. So I believe that personal branding is so important in today's business world. What are your thoughts on personal branding? Because you mentioned it with some of the brands that you talked about, but I think also personal branding is very important because you are your business. And
yes.
if people see you, they like, okay, that's Natalia. I know what I'm going to get because I know the value that she brings. So talk about personal branding.
I think it really depends also on what you're selling. So when you're selling a product, branding becomes even more important to do that sooner. When you're selling a service, sales, I think, is more important than marketing and branding, because you need cash first to be able to do the latter. So I have a service-based business. I put my head down and I built the business. I got it to a multi-million-dollar business, to over 2 million, before I even had a website. Because I sold directly to business owners. I would literally, someone would come to my house to like fix the plumbing, and I'd be like, hey, do you need an accountant? So like, I'd leave no stone unturned was always my feeling on sales. And so, for accounting, I can talk to any business owner. So almost any business owner is truly a fit for me. So I built the business without any kind of branding. No one even knew me. Last year, I decided I can't get it to the next level without having an ecosystem of marketing, branding, ads, and all the things. So, but I already have cash. I built up a business to multi-million before I really started to invest in all of those other items. And the reason I did that also is because I know that if you're not doing your advertising correctly, and I don't know how to do ads on Meta, I had to hire someone. And I don't have time to figure that piece out. A lot of people can figure it out and they have time, and that's fine. I didn't have time to figure it out. So I actually did not have a lot of luck the first 8 months. And I went through 2 agencies. I spent a lot of money between ad spend and the cost of the agency. I spent close to $250,000 without any results. And so that's why it's really, really important to look at your ROI. If I were to go back now, knowing what I know now, I would have insisted on better results sooner and actually terminated those contracts sooner than I did. I let them make me believe that just do this one thing and I'll tweak it all. Just do this. Let me fix this and let me fix that. Well, if they can't get it to work after 1 or 2 months, they're probably not going to make it work. And I waited probably 6 months. So that's just a lesson for myself. But I had the cash already saved up for that. And I was sweating bullets a little bit. I was like, what is going to happen? But part of being a business owner is taking the risk, taking calculated risks and gambling a little bit on making your business a better place. And so without advertising, I don't have predictable revenue. Going to networking events as the owner or having a referral partner that's built on the owner, again, is not a sellable asset. It really reduces the value of my business and there's no predictability. Those relationships can dry up. So I knew that I needed to put that into place. And that was the first place that I started. And like I said, it took 8 months of sweating bullets before it started working and 3 agencies.
Well, like one of my mentors, Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk, says, hire quick, fire quicker. Sometimes if you're not getting your ROI, returning on investment, then sometimes you just need to get rid of them and start over again. Why keep throwing away good money for a bad investment? So, but exactly. I have 3 children. 2 of them one just graduated college. One is a sophomore in college. And I told them the first thing you need to do after you turn 18 is start a LinkedIn account. And it's, start getting your presence known on LinkedIn, start building relationships, start networking. So, and you mentioned LinkedIn earlier, and I love your LinkedIn profile, by the way. Set up very well. I just wanted to give you a big shout out. Talk to us about the importance of LinkedIn.
Sure. So I have never stopped trying to connect with business owners on LinkedIn since I started the business. Every day I would reach out to 10 to 20 people that were a good fit for me as a client, or maybe a good referral partner, or in some way connected to help me improve my business. I would reach out to people and connect with them. And I did that even from day one. I think that at this point, we've got close to 13,000 connections. I'd like to get that up to 50,000. But that ecosystem and the algorithm really likes people that are very active on it. And so what we have is now I have a ghostwriter for LinkedIn. He writes content. I have a social media marketing team. They write me scripts. Those that have just started getting posted also with Reels. So like these are all different people, by the way, your ads person and your social media Reels people and your LinkedIn ghostwriter and your website people. Those are all different individuals because those are very specialized things. Like maybe one company might have those different people, but if it's one person doing all the things, it's probably not a good job because they're very, very different. So advertising and marketing are very different. And so I have all these pieces now working together on LinkedIn. And it's funny because I have a friend that's in social media. She's a social media marketing agency. And she says, Natalia, I see you constantly on LinkedIn. And I think the reason why it keeps popping up in front of people is because I'm very active. I'm constantly getting connected with people. They message me. I have other people trying to connect with me. I'm putting out content and I'm liking and commenting on other people's social media also. And the first year, I would say the first 2 years, that was one of the single sources of business for me. It was an amazing resource for me to get clients.
I love it. Like we have almost 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn guy. That's where I do most of my damage. So, and I sent a connection request on LinkedIn, by the way. So
I will accept it.
You should be getting that today. Now this is a teaching podcast. So for somebody that's getting out of the military, or even somebody that's 40, 50 years old and they're starting their corporate life all over again, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
So first of all, I love it that it's prior military, because these are usually people that don't give up, that love consistency, self-discipline, and love to check things off. So that is the perfect recipe for success in my mind, because success has to do with doing the boring and the unpleasant things, the things that you don't love to do, very consistently and getting better at them. And I was always taught that if you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to do it, it's probably the first thing you should do. So, and that usually comes with sales. So the things that are really important when you're first starting out is figuring out like what service or product are you going to be selling? What is that? And believe it or not, like some people just don't really know, or they don't have that pinpointed. And it's okay if it's not 100% like really spot on yet. You will iterate that and make that better and really refine what you're selling when you start understanding what the marketplace needs. The second thing is understanding who is your customer or your client. Where are they? Who are they? Like doing that research and taking that time to do those steps, it feels like you're wasting time. It feels like I don't even know where to start. But that exercise is really important, because even though it's uncomfortable and maybe you don't even know what you're doing quite yet, it gets you faster to a point where you understand how to make changes and how to make it more effective. So understanding your product or service, understanding your client and customer, like who is going to buy from you and where are they? And then the last piece is pricing. Like what is that price point that you need to have for your product or service to make money? And it's probably going to be a lot higher than you think, because you can't start a business by saying, I'm just going to do this at a very low 10% profit because it's just me. If you want to build something, it's not going to be just you. And you have to build into your pricing the fact that you're going to be hiring other people, the fact that you have to pay taxes, the fact that you have to save money to be able to reinvest it back in the business, and the fact that you want to have a lifestyle and also live off of money. So it's that percentage, like for instance, for a service-based business, as a sole proprietor, a solopreneur, when you don't have any one employed yet, you should be striving for making 60 to 80% profit, because once that you start building and you start hiring, that will drop to about 40%. For a product-based business, you probably want to start at 50 or 60% in sales. And sometimes that's volume. It's you're going to look at your gross profit and be like, I just need to sell a heck of a lot more so I can cover all of my operating costs. So that one varies a little bit more with inventory and supply and demand. But you'll end up probably with 20 to 30% and or possibly even less. So you have to have a price point that's probably a lot higher than what you originally anticipate.
And I agree with you. You know, I see so many people, oh, I'm going to start a t-shirt company. I'm going to start a hat company, coffee company. And they're always like, well, I'm going to go try to be the cheapest. And that's just a race to the bottom of the barrel. You know,
Yes.
I believe there is a reason, you know, for some of us, you know, are on the higher side. Like for somebody to hire me to teach them how to podcast, I'm going to be probably one of the most expensive people, but I'm also going to give you the most value. So I also believe, like you, that you shouldn't always go for the bottom of the barrel, because there's no way to go but down with price.
So that's psychology right there, right? So a lot of people are like, I'm going to hire inexpensive people because I want my profit to go up. It's reverse psychology. Actually, if you hire more expensive people, typically they will have more experience. They'll do the job faster. They'll do it better, and your profit will actually go up even though they're more expensive. Also, if they're more expensive and they're not doing the job, they're easier to let go. So there's that piece also. Same thing with hiring someone like a vendor or someone to teach you something, or a mastermind. I want the best. I don't want the cheapest. I want the best. And sometimes that is not the most expensive, and sometimes it is a different price point. But if it is improving my business, improving our productivity, helping us to streamline and automate, or teaching us something more, then it's worth that cost, because again, it's a reverse psychology. You would spend more money, but your profitability will actually go up.
So tell us about your business. Tell us about how we can get into your ecosystem. Tell us about what you offer. Tell us everything about your business.
So we are a fractional CFO firm, but we also offer bookkeeping and payroll. We don't really do taxes. We do some implementation of tax planning, and we understand everything that you need to do to reduce your taxes on your financials, but mostly bookkeeping and fractional CFO. Bookkeeping is the basic, the foundation of what you need. It is never too soon to start with bookkeeping, never. In fact, it's usually too late. So, and that is probably a hire that you should do faster than waiting for it. When a lot of people try to do their own bookkeeping, there are a lot of nuances to bookkeeping. AI is not able to do it. And if you don't have clarity in your data and you can't make decisions, then that hurts your chances of being successful. And also, why take the time of learning bookkeeping when you should be selling and building your business? So bookkeeping is really important. That's what we do. Fractional CFO, projections, understanding, improving profit, building up cash. How much cash do you need? How much should you be paying yourself? How to create a business that's sellable and that's valuable. So we help with all that scaling and making sure that you're hiring the right people. So that's what fractional CFO is. And you can find us at zacharinconsulting.com. We actually have a special page just for your audience under zacharinconsulting.com/VMR. /VMR. So you'll find a couple of freebies there, some PDFs that you can download. One is 7 ways to find money in your business now. And the other one is the ultimate checklist for financial success. And then there's a calendar link if you do want to talk to us.
And then you're also on LinkedIn. You're also on Facebook. You're also on Instagram. So
all the things. So Instagram and LinkedIn or Grow Your Bottom Line are my handles, or Natalia Zacharin. We just started TikTok. We're on YouTube. We haven't done very much with Twitter yet, but mostly Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
I love it. So, and I want to give a big thank you to, like I said, Cindy. Thank you for putting this all together. You've been such a big help, Cindy. Thank you so much. I want to give a big shout out to Celsius Energy. Thank you so much for keeping us energized, especially after I had to shovel 3 feet of snow yesterday. I'm so grateful for you, for everybody that shows up. And the way I end this show every day is I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. And I believe that every morning we wake up, we have a choice. You can be a victim or you can be a victor. And as long as you guys show up every week like you have been for the last 13 years, you're no longer victims of your past, you're victors of your present. And I just want to say thank you guys for always showing up. Natalia, I want to say thank you for everything. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for some of the stuff you talked about. I'm actually going to put it into play into my business. So I just want to say thank you so much for showing up and hanging out with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do. It's really important. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing day.